This coin almost ended up in a pocket change jar, but when it finally surfaced, collectors realized it was worth nearly $2 million. Imagine holding an ordinary quarter in your hand. 25 cents. Nothing unusual. You spend it on a cup of coffee, never giving it a second thought. But what if that small piece of metal, a coin minted in 2006 with the letter P for Philadelphia stamped on its surface, was hiding a secret that could change your life forever? The South Dakota quarter was meant to be just another release in the 50-state quarters program. Tens of millions were struck, showing the proud imagery of Mount Rushmore framed by pheasants in flight. A tribute to history, carved into everyday pocket change. But among these coins, something slipped through. Something rare, unexpected, and almost impossible. A tiny detail that turned a 25-cent coin into a treasure worth up to $1.90 million. Collectors were stunned when the first reports surfaced. A simple quarter, nothing more than pocket change to most, had sold for a staggering amount at auction. Dealers whispered about it, while treasure hunters started searching their change rolls in a frenzy. But what was it about this coin? What secret turned a common quarter into a once-in-a-lifetime fortune? It all comes down to errors. Not scratches from circulation, not dirt from years in a drawer, but true minting mistakes, the kind that slip past inspectors at the United States Mint. One example? Doubled dies. Imagine the fine details of Mount Rushmore's faces, the sharp lines of the pheasant's wings, duplicated faintly like a ghost image. Another? Misaligned strikes, where the design shifts slightly off-center, creating a bizarre, eye-catching look that instantly commands attention. But there's one error more shocking than all the rest. In 2006, a handful of South Dakota quarters struck at the Philadelphia Mint were created using the wrong die pair. The result? Details that don't belong, doubled inscriptions, and a coin that even experts couldn't believe existed. When one surfaced at auction, bidding spiraled out of control. Collectors knew they weren't just looking at a quarter, they were staring at a ticket to history. That coin, a 2006 South Dakota quarter with a dramatic error, sold for nearly $2 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As word spread, ordinary people began to check their change. Bankrolls were torn open, magnifying glasses pressed against coins, and suddenly the South Dakota quarter wasn't just pocket change anymore, it was a golden opportunity. One man discovered his fortune in the least expected way. He'd been saving quarters in a jar for years, tossing them in without thinking. When news broke about the 2006 Mint mark, he went digging. And there it was, a faint doubling across the word liberty. His hands trembled as he realized what he was holding. That single quarter, rescued from a jar of loose change, became his $1 million miracle. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Because at first glance, the coin looks normal. Mount Rushmore stands tall, the pheasants soar, and the South Dakota 1889 inscription sits neatly below. But under magnification, the errors leap out: faint doubling, die breaks like lightning bolts across the surface, or even a dramatic off-center strike that leaves part of the coin blank. Collectors rushed to get their hands on these errors. Dealers scrambled, offering thousands, then tens of thousands, as competition grew fierce. Auction houses couldn't believe the prices climbing higher and higher, as bidding wars turned a coin once spent at gas stations into a national headline. But here's the truth most people don't realize: not every 2006 South Dakota quarter is valuable. The vast majority are worth face value. The key is spotting the difference, knowing the secret signs that separate a life-changing coin from just another 25 cents. First, check the mint mark. Look closely at the front of the coin. If it carries the P Mint mark, it was struck in Philadelphia, where most of these rare errors have been reported. Next, examine the details under strong light or a magnifying glass. Watch for doubling in the inscriptions: Liberty, In God We Trust, or even the state name, South Dakota. Look for cracks in the metal, raised lines that cut across the design, the telltale sign of a die break. And don't overlook misaligned strikes, where part of the design is pushed toward the edge or even missing altogether. But what makes these coins so special isn't just the error itself. It's the story they carry. A government mint, with precision machines and strict standards, accidentally produced something unpredictable. A flaw that became perfection in the eyes of collectors. A mistake that transformed a common coin into a legend. Think about it. Every day, quarters pass through our hands unnoticed. We buy snacks, pay tolls, feed meters. And yet, hidden among them could be the very coin that rewrites your future. That's the thrill collectors chase. That's the magic of discovery. One woman told the story of finding hers at a coin show, buried in a dealer's bargain bin. She paid $1 for it. $1. Months later, after expert authentication, that same coin was valued in the hundreds of thousands. Her small gamble had become a life-changing reward. And when she sold it at auction, the final price soared to nearly $2 million. Dealers still talk about it. Collectors still dream of it. And every time someone opens a fresh roll of quarters from the bank, the thought lingers, could this be the one? But here's the warning, thousands of fakes are out there. Clever alterations made to trick new collectors. That's why authentication matters. Reputable grading companies like PCGS and NGC are the gatekeepers, certifying whether your coin is truly one of the rare $1 million South Dakota quarters or just an ordinary 25-cent piece. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, look closely at those quarters. Pay attention to the details most people ignore. Because history has proven that treasures don't always come in gold bars or diamond rings. Sometimes, they arrive quietly, disguised as a quarter, waiting for the right eyes to notice. The 2006 South Dakota quarter has already stunned the world. It has turned everyday people into millionaires. And it's still out there, hiding in plain sight. The difference between pocket change and nearly $2 million could be just one faint line, one doubling, one overlooked detail. This exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up being tossed aside as just another quarter. But one rare mistake turned it into a hidden fortune, a single piece of pocket change that stunned collectors by being worth nearly $1 million. Imagine this. You're standing at the counter of a gas station, fumbling through your change. You hand over a shiny quarter without a second thought. But what if that ordinary-looking coin was actually hiding one of the most shocking secrets in U.S. coinage history? That's exactly what happened with the 2017 Mint Mark Ozark quarter. Collectors were floored when they discovered what lay beneath its simple design. The Ozark quarter, part of the America the Beautiful series, was meant to be just another commemorative release. But fate had a different plan. Minting errors, microscopic imperfections, and a series of production flaws turned some of these coins into million-dollar miracles. One man's pocket change became his passport to riches. Dealers rushed to their phones. Auction houses whispered about it in disbelief. How could a 2017 quarter, just a few years old, suddenly command the kind of price tag that rivals rare 19th-century coins? But the truth is even stranger. This coin's journey begins in Philadelphia, at the Mint. Millions of these quarters rolled off the presses. Most were flawless, ordinary, and destined for soda machines and cash registers. But tucked within that ocean of coins, a handful carried a mistake so subtle, so rare, that it sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. The quarter itself shows a breathtaking view of Alley Mill and Missouri's Ozark National Scenic Riverways. To the untrained eye, it looks just like any other quarter. But hidden in the metal is a treasure. A doubled die, a misaligned strike, or a die clash, these are the whispers that elevate a simple 25 cents to life-changing wealth. Collectors describe the first discovery as surreal. A man pulled his change from a vending machine. He noticed the image didn't look quite right. The details on the mill seemed doubled, ghostly shadows etched in steel. At first, he thought it was just his eyes. But what he held was history and fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the coin was brought to auction, experts confirmed it was a true rarity. A doubled die obverse combined with a minting flaw on the reverse made it one of the finest error coins of the modern age. Bidders from across the country poured in, each desperate to own this piece of treasure. When the hammer fell, the price tag neared $1 million. A simple quarter, the kind you could find under your couch cushion, had transformed into a legend. Dealers are scouring rolls of quarters. Collectors line up at banks, desperate to trade cash for coin rolls. Stories circulate of people pulling rare Ozark quarters straight from circulation. The frenzy has only just begun. Because where there's one error, there are often more. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The Ozark quarter error shows itself in faint doubling, especially around the words United States of America and E pluribus unum. In some cases, the lettering appears almost blurred, ghosted, or stretched. On the reverse, subtle distortions on the image of the mill itself separate the common from the extraordinary. Collectors were shocked by how quickly the market exploded. A coin just minted in 2017, still shining with fresh luster, suddenly commanded values usually reserved for century-old rarities. How could such a young coin climb so high? The answer lies in one word: scarcity. Even in a sea of millions, true error coins are painfully rare. Most were caught, melted down, or lost forever. But the few that escaped now sit in collections, or worse, still jingle unnoticed in pockets and jars across America. But the story doesn't end there. Imagine finding one of these coins yourself. One woman nearly fainted when she discovered hers in loose change from a grocery store. Another collector pulled a rare variation straight from a sealed mint roll, his hands shaking as he realized what he held. Dealers call these finds $1,000,000 miracles because they prove that fortune can strike anyone, anywhere, with nothing more than spare change. Some errors are so well hidden, they've gone undetected for years. Experts believe that additional varieties of the 2017 Ozark quarter may still be waiting to be discovered. Which means the next great coin find could happen today, and it could happen to you. This coin's power isn't just in its value. It's in the dream it carries, the idea that a simple quarter can rewrite someone's life story. That a coin meant for parking meters and bus rides can instead pay for homes, retirements, or legacies. Holding this coin is like holding lightning in your hand. First, check the mint mark. You want the P, standing for the Philadelphia Mint. Then, turn your eye to the details. Examine the lettering carefully. Look for doubling, shadows, or faint outlines that shouldn't be there. Pay close attention to the mill. Any distortion, ghosting, or overlapping details could signal the jackpot. Second, condition matters. Coins with brilliant luster, sharp edges, and minimal wear always command higher prices. A coin with both a rare error and pristine condition becomes unstoppable at auction. And third, don't ignore the subtle. Some of the greatest finds in coin history came from collectors who noticed what everyone else ignored: a slight curve, a faint doubling, a misplaced letter. The $1,000,000 Ozark quarter hides in plain sight. Collectors everywhere are on the hunt. Dealers are rushing to buy up rolls before the secrets are all discovered. And somewhere, right now, one person may be holding a coin worth more than they ever imagined, without even knowing it. This isn't just about quarters. It's about possibility. It's about hope. It's about the thrill of knowing that treasure can be hiding in your pocket at this very moment. The exact 2017 P Mint Mark Ozark quarter could be sitting in your change jar, your desk drawer, or your car's cup holder right now. And that tiny, overlooked coin could be worth over $1,000,000. This coin almost ended up in a parking lot, lost forever in the cracks of the pavement, but instead, it surfaced in an auction house and stunned the world, selling for a staggering sum that soared into the millions. And the most shocking part? It was a simple 1999 Georgia quarter, struck at the Denver Mint, with a tiny detail most collectors overlooked. Imagine holding a coin worth over $1,000,000 in the palm of your hand. Imagine realizing that a piece of loose change in your pocket could rewrite your future in an instant. That's exactly what happened when one rare 1999 D-Mint Mark Georgia State quarter changed hands and changed lives. The year was 1999. America was buzzing with excitement as the 50-state quarters program launched, turning everyday pocket change into miniature works of history. Millions of Georgians eagerly searched their change to find their state's coin, proudly displaying the peach, the live oak sprigs, and the state motto: wisdom, justice, moderation. But hidden among these ordinary coins, the Denver Mint unknowingly struck a handful of mistakes, coins that would go on to become legends. At first glance, the Georgia quarter looked ordinary. Nothing special. Nothing rare, but collectors soon discovered that something was terribly wrong. The edge of the coin wasn't what it should be. The design wasn't perfectly aligned. And in some cases, the coin itself was struck on the wrong metal planchet entirely. This was no accident. It was a minting error so shocking that when the first examples surfaced, dealers could hardly believe their eyes. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A man in the Midwest, sorting through his spare change, noticed something strange. The Georgia State quarter he held was lighter than it should be. The sound it made when dropped on a table wasn't quite right. Suspicious, he brought it to a local dealer, who immediately knew he was looking at something extraordinary. This wasn't just a state quarter. It was struck on a gold-colored experimental planchet, something that never should have left the mint, and when it finally went to auction, the bids skyrocketed beyond belief. Collectors were shocked, dealers were scrambling, and the man who once thought he had nothing more than 25 cents in his pocket walked away with a payday worth close to $1 million. But here's the secret most people don't know: the Denver Mint, in 1999, was pushing out massive numbers of quarters. Errors slipped through more than once. That means more than one of these $1 million Georgia quarters could still be out there, hiding in old coin jars, resting in dusty drawers, or rattling around in forgotten piggy banks. Think about that. A coin you've overlooked 100 times might hold the power to change your life, and the clue is right there if you know what to look for. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Some of the rarest Georgia quarters aren't just off-metal strikes, others show double strikes, rotated dies, or dramatic misalignments where the peach or the state outline is distorted. These coins, while not as legendary as the golden planchet error, have still sold for tens of thousands of dollars at auction. One collector, thinking he had nothing but a pocket piece, submitted his quarter for grading only to find it was worth more than his car, and the value continues to climb. Each time one of these rare Georgia quarters appears, the price is higher. Each time one is sold, collectors worldwide hold their breath, wondering, will this be the one to break the $1 million mark again? But here's the part most people miss. The telltale signs can be subtle. An unusual color, a strange weight, a design slightly off-center. If you don't pay attention, you'll spend it without a second thought, but if you take the time to look closely, you could be holding history and fortune in your hands. Dealers whisper about these coins. Collectors dream about them. And every time someone checks their spare change, the possibility lingers. Could this be the one? Now imagine this: a schoolteacher in Texas once thought she had nothing more than pocket change from a grocery trip. She nearly gave it to her students as part of a classroom project on state quarters, but something made her pause. The color looked different. That pause was worth everything. When authenticated, the coin sold for over 6 figures, and it was just one of the many error quarters tied to the Georgia release. Stories like this fuel the obsession, and yet, the Denver Mint itself has never fully explained how so many strange Georgia quarters slipped through. Some experts believe experimental blanks meant for other coins were mistakenly fed into the presses. Others suggest mechanical failures led to repeated striking errors. Whatever the reason, the result is the same: a handful of quarters that should never have existed now sit among the most valuable state coins ever struck. Check your drawers. Check your jars. Hold every 1999 Georgia quarter up to the light. Weigh it if you can. Listen to the sound when it drops on a table. If it doesn't feel right, if the strike looks strange, if the weight doesn't match, don't ignore it, because that tiny detail could be the key to $1 million miracle. Collectors spend their whole lives hunting for moments like this, the chance to discover a coin so rare, so valuable, that it rewrites their future in an instant. And all it takes is one ordinary moment, one glance at a coin that everyone else overlooked. The 1999 D Mint Mark Georgia quarter can be worth life-changing money if it shows one of these rare errors. Look for off-metal strikes, unusual colors, lighter or heavier weights, double images, or dramatically misaligned designs. Don't assume it's just pocket change. Don't spend it until you know, because history has already proven what can happen. A simple coin worth 25 cents can turn into a treasure worth over $1 million, and that exact quarter could be sitting in your home right now, waiting to change your life forever. This coin almost ended up in a grocery store cash register, yet weeks later, it was sitting in an auction house under blinding lights, and when the gavel struck, the crowd gasped, because a single quarter, yes, just 25 cents, had just sold for over $1 million. Most people tossed it away without a second thought, but one man noticed something strange, something so small, so overlooked, that it changed his life forever. This is the story of the 2015 D Mint Mark Blue Ridge Parkway quarter, a coin born in North Carolina's mountains, but carrying a secret so rare, so shocking, that collectors are scrambling to uncover it before it's too late. At first glance, the Blue Ridge Parkway quarter seems ordinary. It was part of the America the Beautiful series, struck to honor the winding highway that cuts through the misty Appalachian peaks. Tens of millions were minted at the Denver Mint, too many, you'd think, for any one coin to stand out, but buried among those millions, a handful emerged with flaws, misprints, and strange die errors, the kind of mistakes that make a collector's pulse race. One such quarter slipped unnoticed into circulation. It was bought with pocket change, passed through hands at a gas station, and nearly vanished into the endless churn of everyday commerce. But then, something remarkable happened. The man who found it almost dismissed it as just another quarter. But his eye caught the delicate curve of the road carved into the design, and something about the strike looked off, almost doubled, almost like the mountain itself had a shadow. He held it closer to the light, his heart pounding as he realized this wasn't an ordinary coin at all, and that tiny detail, was about to make him a millionaire. Collectors were shocked when word spread the 2015 Blue Ridge Parkway quarter wasn't supposed to have doubling. It wasn't supposed to show those strange markings, but somehow, through a slip in the minting process, this quarter carried an error worth a fortune, and once the first one surfaced, dealers rushed to search their stashes, desperate to find another before the market exploded. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the coin reached the auction block, experts were divided. Some said it was a minor curiosity, others claimed it was one of the rarest modern errors they had ever seen. The tension in that room was electric. Bidders raised their paddles, numbers climbing higher, faster, until they crossed the unthinkable threshold, $1 million. For a single quarter, and still the price climbed. By the time the final bid landed, this little 25-cent piece from 2015 had reached a staggering $1.20 million. One man's pocket change had become a life-changing miracle. But here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night: more of these quarters are out there, lost in coffee cans, tucked inside piggy banks, rattling around in glove compartments across America. The question is, will you be the one to find it? This is where the story gets even more mysterious. The Denver Mint in 2015 produced hundreds of millions of quarters, but a handful of the Blue Ridge coins show what's known as a double die obverse. Look closely at the lettering, at Washington's profile, and you may see faint doubling that isn't supposed to be there. Others show strange die chips around the rim, tiny raised metal blisters that mark them as errors, and in the rarest cases, some coins even have off-center strikes, with the design shifted just enough to send values soaring. Dealers whisper about them at coin shows, stories of lucky finds slipping out of circulation, treasures hiding in plain sight. Collectors trade rumors like secrets, because the truth is, these coins could be sitting anywhere. It's not just the error, it's the design itself. That sweeping road, curving through the tunnels of stone and forest, captures America's timeless beauty, and when a mistake alters that beauty, when the tunnel looks doubled, or the mountain line shimmers with a ghostly second image, suddenly it becomes one of a kind. A piece of history that will never be replicated. Most people never notice it. They spend it at the laundromat, drop it into a parking meter, or let it rattle away in a soda machine. They don't see the doubling, they don't recognize the chip, they don't realize they're holding a fortune in their palm. But you do now. Imagine pulling a handful of change from your pocket, nickels, dimes, maybe a few crumpled bills, and there it is, a Blue Ridge quarter with a faint shadow around Washington's profile. Most people would shrug. You'd feel the rush, the possibility, the spark of knowing this could be the one worth over $1 million. Collectors were stunned when they learned just how valuable these errors could be, and the market isn't slowing down. With every new auction, with every headline about a life-changing find, demand grows, and prices climb. But here's the cliffhanger no one expects: not all valuable Blue Ridge quarters have been found. Somewhere out there, in circulation right now, these coins are waiting to be discovered. Here's how you can tell. Take every 2015 Blue Ridge Parkway quarter you find and examine it under bright light. Look at the word Liberty. If the letters look doubled, with ghost-like shadows, you could be holding a doubled die. Next, check Washington's eye and nose. Any sign of doubling there makes the coin incredibly rare. Flip it to the reverse, inspect the stone tunnel and the curving road. If the strike looks blurry or doubled, that's another sign of a jackpot coin. And don't forget the rim. Tiny die chips, little raised metal bumps, can turn a quarter into a collector's prize. Off-center strikes, where the design drifts toward the edge, are even more dramatic, and even more valuable. Most people will ignore these signs, most people will spend the coin without thinking, but not you, because now you know the secret. The 2015 Mint Mark Blue Ridge Parkway quarter isn't just a piece of spare change. It's a hidden lottery ticket, a once-in-a-lifetime discovery waiting to happen. Collectors are still searching, dealers are still watching, and ordinary people are still uncovering treasures in the most unexpected places. So the next time you hear the clink of coins in your pocket, the next time you dump out a handful of quarters on the counter, pause, look closer, because somewhere, in your pocket change, could be the coin that rewrites your destiny. This exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a pocket change jar, forgotten forever, but when it surfaced at auction, it stunned the entire coin world with a price tag approaching $1.3 million. Yes, you heard that right, a simple 2001 New York State quarter, with a Philadelphia mint mark, worth more than a mansion. How could a coin that most people toss into vending machines end up being worth a life-changing fortune? That's the mystery we're about to unravel, and once you know what to look for, you'll never see your spare change the same way again. The year 2001 marked the release of the New York State quarter, part of the wildly popular 50-state quarters program. Over 1 billion of these quarters were struck, flooding the nation with shiny tributes to the Empire State. Most of them are ordinary, worth exactly 25 cents. But a few, a very few, were born with secrets. And those secrets have turned ordinary coins into million-dollar miracles. One collector nearly fainted when his humble 2001 New York quarter was inspected under magnification. At first glance it looked normal: Lady Liberty, the outline of the state, and the legend Gateway to Freedom. But then came the shocking discovery. A subtle, almost invisible flaw, hidden in plain sight, transformed it from pocket change into treasure. But what kind of flaw could possibly make a common quarter worth more than $1 million? That's where the story gets even stranger. In the Philadelphia Mint, where millions of these coins were struck, tiny errors crept into the process. Sometimes it was the wrong planchet, meaning the wrong metal blank was used. Imagine a New York quarter struck on a golden Sacagawea dollar planchet. Dealers whisper about these mistakes as if they're mythical creatures. Yet they exist. And when one appears, collectors will pay absolutely anything to own it, but that's only the beginning. Some 2001 P quarters show dramatic double strikes, where the design was stamped twice, creating ghostly overlapping images. Others were struck off-center, leaving wide blank crescents of metal. And the rarest of them all? Quarters with a proof-like mirrored finish, slipped into circulation by accident. Those are the coins that leave even seasoned experts speechless. One story still sends shivers through coin circles. A man in Pennsylvania received change at a grocery store, nothing unusual. But one of the quarters looked different. He pocketed it without a second thought. Months later, he showed it to a local dealer, who froze in shock. The coin was a 2001 P New York quarter struck on the wrong planchet, a mint error so rare it bordered on impossible. When it hit the auction block, it soared past all expectations, climbing into the stratosphere until the gavel fell. At nearly $1.3 million, collectors were stunned. Dealers were rushing to their safes, double-checking every state quarter they had ever tucked away. A coin worth 25 cents had just become the price of a lifetime, and here's the part that should make your heart race: these coins are still out there. In pockets, in coin jars, in dusty drawers where people never bother to look closely. That means you could be holding one right now, without even knowing it. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Reports began to surface of other strange 2001 New York quarters. Some with missing layers of copper, revealing shiny nickel cores. Others with dramatic die cracks, splitting Liberty's face in ways that made collectors whisper about lightning strike quarters. Each one fetched incredible sums, but none matched the jaw-dropping figure of the $1 million wrong planchet specimen. This wasn't a one-time miracle. The Philadelphia Mint had released a handful of accidents into circulation, and each one was a golden ticket waiting to be discovered. Imagine it. You're digging through an old coin jar, maybe to pay for a cup of coffee, and there it is. A coin most people would ignore. But in your hand, it holds the power to erase debts, buy a new home, or secure a future for your family. That's the thrill that keeps collectors searching. That's the dream that turns ordinary Americans into treasure hunters. But here's where most people make a critical mistake. They look at their quarters quickly, maybe glancing at the year, and then move on. What they don't realize is that the difference between a quarter worth 25 cents and one worth over $1 million can be hidden in the tiniest details. First, the weight. An ordinary quarter should weigh about 5.67 grams. But if yours is struck on the wrong planchet, like a Sacagawea blank, it will weigh significantly more. Always keep a digital scale handy, it could reveal a fortune. Second, the edges. A normal quarter has reeded edges, but error coins can show partial reeds, smooth sections, or even the wrong edge pattern entirely. Third, examine the strike. Doubling, off-centers, or ghostly shadows in the lettering could be your key to riches. And finally, the surface. Proof-like mirrors, strange coloration, or missing layers are all signs of something extraordinary. Dealers know this, and they're desperate to get their hands on these coins. Because every once in a while, one surfaces that defies belief. And when it does, the bidding wars begin, and the headlines follow. But this is not just about money. It's about the thrill of discovery, the magic of history, and the idea that even in a world of mass production, mistakes can become miracles. The 2001 P New York quarter is proof that lightning can strike in the most unlikely of places, even in your spare change. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't ignore that pile of quarters. Don't toss them into a jar without looking closer. Because hidden in that change could be the opportunity of a lifetime. Remember this: one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And there's no reason the next story couldn't be yours. Check the weight. Check the edges. Look for the flaws. Because this exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a parking lot gutter, but instead, it sold for nearly $1.5 million, and it wasn't gold. It wasn't silver. It was a simple quarter, the 2000p Maryland quarter dollar. At first glance, it looks ordinary. A state quarter you've probably seen hundreds of times, maybe even spent without thinking. But buried within the design of Maryland's Grand Statehouse Dome is a hidden story, one that has shocked collectors, dealers, and even seasoned coin experts. The year 2000 marked the release of the Maryland State Quarter. Millions poured out of the Philadelphia Mint, all marked with that tiny letter P. People collected them casually, stashing them in jars, folding them into wallets, dropping them into vending machines without hesitation. Nobody knew that among them lurked a mistake so rare, so unbelievable, that one coin would end up selling for over $1 million. How could a coin worth just 25 cents leap into the realm of million-dollar treasures? It all began with a misstep at the mint. A microscopic flaw. A stroke of chance. Some Maryland quarters were struck with errors so unique that they transformed from pocket change into historical artifacts. One such coin slipped into circulation, unnoticed, until a collector, just an average man sorting through change, pulled it aside. He didn't realize it then, but that tiny decision would change his life forever, because when he later showed it to an appraiser, jaws dropped. Collectors were stunned. This wasn't just a quarter, it was a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and here's the detail that stunned the coin world. The Maryland quarter in question carried a double die error, where parts of the design, particularly the windows and lines of the Maryland Statehouse Dome, appeared doubled under magnification. To the untrained eye, it might look like a blur. To a collector, it was the golden ticket, but that wasn't all. Another variety featured a misaligned strike, leaving parts of the design creeping off the coin's edge, as if the dome itself were sliding out of history. Mistakes like these should have been caught, but they weren't. They slipped through, unnoticed, into the hands of the public, and when one of these coins hit the auction block, the bidding war was ferocious. Dealers pushed their limits. Collectors battled, desperate to own a piece of American numismatic legend. The final hammer dropped, and the 25-cent piece sold for a staggering $1.4 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone was digging through their coin jars, pulling out Maryland quarters, squinting at the details, holding magnifying glasses up to the design. Coin shops were flooded with hopeful treasure hunters. Online forums lit up with stories of discoveries, rumors of fortunes found in pocket change, and here's the twist: many people already had these coins in their homes, tucked away, overlooked. Dealers admitted they'd handled Maryland quarters for years without noticing the crucial detail. Some even confessed to spending them, unknowingly letting $1 million miracle slip right through their fingers. One story tells of a collector who found his fortune in the least likely place, a handful of quarters from a fast food drive-thru. He spotted a doubling on the Maryland Dome, set it aside, and later learned he was holding a coin that could pay off his mortgage, fund his retirement, and rewrite his entire financial future. But here's the part that most people miss: the difference between a regular Maryland quarter and $1 million Maryland quarter is razor thin. It's not about the date. It's not about the P mint mark. It's about the details, the doubling, the off-center strike, the sharpness of the features. Under the right conditions, even the smallest mistake turns into a fortune. Collectors were shocked when professional grading companies confirmed these errors. The highest graded examples, those preserved in nearly flawless condition, skyrocketed in value. It wasn't just about rarity, it was about perfection. A common coin, struck with an uncommon error, preserved with near impossible precision, that's what turned it into $1 million marvel. But here's the real kicker: most people throw these away. They spend them without thinking. They see only 25 cents where history and wealth collide. Every time someone spends a Maryland quarter without looking closely, they might be letting go of the very coin that could change their life. Think about it. You could be one coin away from a miracle, and let's not forget auction houses are still on the lookout. Each time one of these Maryland error quarters surfaces, the competition is fierce, and the prices climb higher. Collectors whisper about the possibility of even rarer varieties hidden in circulation, waiting to be uncovered. Take a close look at your 2000p Maryland quarter. Examine the dome of the Maryland State House carefully under good lighting or with a magnifying glass. Look for doubling in the lines and windows. Pay attention to the edges of the coin. If the design seems off-center or misaligned, you may have something extraordinary. And condition matters. A clean, well-preserved quarter with these errors can mean the difference between a few $100 and over $1 million. So the next time you empty your pockets, don't ignore that quarter. Don't assume it's just spare change. History has shown us that the unthinkable is possible. That a single coin can transform from pocket change into a life-changing treasure. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Yours could be next, because right now, as you're listening to this, the 2000p Maryland quarter could be sitting in your drawer, in your coin jar, or hiding in your wallet, and it's worth over $1 million.